So recently I made a trade guild, and there's actually a lot of both new and experienced players that have a lot of questions regarding how to get started in a trade guild, or how to start selling stuff on a guild trader, or just how to sell stuff in general. I've actually been requested to make this by a lot of people because there's no recent ones apparently on YouTube that really delve deep into it for beginners. It's actually pretty surprising how basic the questions are too. So in this video I'm going to be addressing those questions, and we're going to be going over the top 5 basics of selling to other players in the Elder Scrolls Online. So there's PvP, PvE, roleplay, social, fishing, and whatever other guilds, full to the brim with both new and old players. Of course, there's also trade guilds that primarily focus just on procuring guild traders every Sunday, every week, so their members can sell through those traders. Most trade guilds pretty much always advertise all the time in zone chat due to the high member turnover rate, and new players often wonder what being in a trade guild does for them. Essentially, being in a trade guild will not only give you other benefits that other guilds offer, such as an entire roster of people to freely teleport to without paying gold, or human contact. Being in a trade guild also allows you full access to whatever guild trader the guild possesses at the time. Is about what exactly guild traders are. So basically, in the Elder Scrolls Online, there is no global auction house. Whether that's a good or bad thing is a subject for another day. However, since there is no global auction house, where do players list their stuff for the public to buy from? Well, the answer is in guild stores, and every guild can bid on every guild trader NPC each once every week on Sundays by 9 PM US Eastern. If your guild wins that trader spot, people can buy from your guild store for one entire week until bidding time comes around again, and this may, you might potentially lose your trader, you might potentially win it again. If your guild doesn't have a guild trader, only the people inside the guild can buy from the guild store, so that's bad for a trade guild. No outside traffic, less buyers, and even less incentive to sell on the guild store. And no one guild knows exactly how much other guilds bid on traders for. So that's why you'll see that pretty much every trade guild does auctions, raffles, or whatever to supplement their gold income, because it gets pretty intense if it's like a war of financial attrition if trade guilds are vying for the same spots. A lot of new players think raffles or the dues members need to pay goes to line the corrupt officers' pockets, but if you're an actual trade guild, pretty much all the gold everyone makes and generously goes towards the next trader bid, or to increase the quality of the raffle so more people participate. A lot of new players are also intimidated by a lot of trade guilds requiring you to make a certain amount in sales a week, or requiring you to donate a certain amount of gold every week if you cannot meet your sales quota. This is fine, because certainly when I was first playing this game, I thought to myself, man, that amount at the stables is like 10,000 gold. I barely have 900 gold. But don't worry, there's also plenty of friendly trade guilds out there that will not require like extraordinary amounts of gold per week, or require extraordinary amounts of donations per week. And there's also quite a lot of guilds out there that'll help you get you started, and so on and so on. Only the trade guilds with the best guild traders can get away with demanding things like 200,000 gold sales quotas, or a 30 to 50,000 gold donation if you can't meet the quota every week. So I would hit up zone chat, or maybe look through the newly made guild finder system to see if you can find a guild trader that fits you. And there's absolutely nothing wrong if you can't meet quotas and get removed from those trade guilds. Every trade guild will always want you back when you're ready. You being removed from a trade guild, it's not a ban or something, unless you did something to others that warranted an actual ban or an actual blacklist ban. This brings us to number 2, guild stores. A guild can only have access to a guild store once their member count reaches 50. So once your guild unlocks the guild store, like here it says guild store is enabled, everyone in the guild can post their wares on the guild store. If you're in a trade guild that currently possesses a guild trader NPC, Other people adventuring in Tamriel outside of the guild can buy from that store, but they cannot sell on it because they're not in the guild, unless they're in the guild. Basically, think of the guild trader NPC simply as an outlet for your guild store to reach the outside world. Another thing people are confused about in regards to the guild store is that a lot of people think they need the DLC or expansion zone in which their guild trader is located in. This is false. Let's say your guild has a guild trader in Clockwork City. If you aren't an ESO Plus member or didn't buy the Clockwork City DLC, you can still sell to other people who go to your guild's trader in Clockwork City. How? Remember, your guild store is simply being displayed through that guild trader NPC. Nothing has changed. To access your guild store, just go to any banker NPC located in any city in the entirety of Nirn and just click guild store. From here you can access which guild's store you want to list your stuff in, check how full your listings are, and also take down any wares you want to relist for a different price, or list different things for however much you want, up to 200. That's pretty much it. So it literally doesn't matter where your guild's trader NPC is. Even if you want to buy from your guild, you can again just access the guild store through any banker NPC and just search it up and buy from your guild without going to that specific guild trader. And also remember that the banker NPC you must access the guild store from has to be an actual town or city banker NPC, not your personal banker NPC. Let's see, where is it? You cannot access this from your personal banker NPC. Your assistant bankers will only give you access to your personal bank. People also have a lot of questions about where exactly their gold goes to when they list stuff on the guild store, and exactly how much of the gold they give goes to the guild bank or the guild. So here we see that there's a listing fee, so it's 1% of whatever you're listing. This is an example of what we call in ESO a gold sink. Basically the abyss in which the player economy dumps a lot of its gold into so the in-game currency doesn't become too inflated. Other examples of gold sinks can include the gold you used to purchase a guild tavern, armor repair costs, and so on. The gold goes absolutely to no one except back to the system, and in this case the listing fees doesn't even go into your guild's bank, so your guild doesn't get any of the listing fees. The sales tax of one sold item is 7% according to the house cut. However, 3.5% of this goes to the guild, and the other 3.5% also goes nowhere. Again, this is why every trade guild has so many gold supplement methods, such as raffles and auctions. If your guild makes 1 million gold in 1 week, which may sound like a lot, the guild only gets 35,000 gold from that, or 0.035 of that, which is of course nowhere near enough to cover the cost of the next trader bid, if it's a decent trader obviously. However, selling stuff through your guild store will still help the guild. Every bit of gold helps no matter what. You'll lose out on some gold when compared to selling things in zone chat without any guild store taxes, but at the same time you're going to be reaching a bigger audience through the guild trader, and once you list your stuff, you don't have to stay glued to your chair looking at zone chat seeing if there's any buyers interested in your wares. You can just list your stuff and log off and come back tomorrow to see a lot of items sold mails. This is of course the #1 question so many people have, regardless of how much experience they have in ESO. What can I sell? I don't have gold materials or gold improvement materials or really rare items. True, if you're just starting out in the ESO, or if you don't really play the game too much, you may not have the latest style motifs or weapons that everyone wants, but there's still a lot of things you can potentially sell. For example, a guildie from another guild of mine thought he couldn't even sell over 10,000 gold of things, but once he did just a little bit of research with price checks from other people and started trying out the guild trader, he made over 250,000 gold in less than 2 days. And no, this part of the video is not like those videos. Everything from style materials to recipes is sellable. It may surprise you as to how much you can sell of what you think what other people may not want. The old saying, another man's trash is another man's treasure, holds up very well in the Elder Scrolls Online. Motifs, style mats for those motifs, blue, green, purple improvement materials, items from PvP, raw materials, refined materials, furniture plans, furniture you can make. There's so much you can sell. All you have to do is find your niche and research more about it. For example, if selling armor and weapons, both craftable or droppable, you need to keep up with what other people may want, which will always vary from patch to patch. The most popular gear will be meta gear that every damage dealer in the game wants, or what every tank wants, and of course this can change from patch to patch, month to month. Examples include Mother Sorrow staves, Plague Doctor shields, and so on. Or you can even craft your own gear to sell to other people. This is why it's so important to keep a pulse on what other people want, and especially important even to observe what ESO content creators make videos about. For example, Outcast is a well-known PvE content creator, and he made a video about the next best in slot gear. The next thing you know, everyone's farming it, the prices are skyrocketing on the gear, and even for such high prices, people were still buying them up. Another example, another person on YouTube made a video, or the word got around about using alchemy writs recently to level alchemy fast and so on, and prices skyrocketed yet again on those alchemy writs. Do you see the trend? If you ever have questions about how much things cost, your trade guild in a Discord server or a guild chat will always be a good source of information. And this leads us to the next thing in this video. Add-ons are your friends. Specifically in regards to PC players, you can have add-ons such as ATT, TTC, or MM. The Master Merchant and ATT add-ons basically scan the sales histories of the guilds you're in to see how much items sold for in the past however amount of time. With Master Merchant, you can even see how much you've sold in a certain amount of time, who is currently the best seller in your guild, and so much more. Note, however, I said that these add-ons can scan the sales histories of the guilds you're in. This means you will not be able to see the data of other trade guilds if you're not in them. This is why it's best to be in at least 2 trade guilds to get a good idea of how much you should sell things for. The last add-on we're going to be talking about is Tamriel Trade Center, or the website tamrieltradecenter.com. Unlike the previous 2 add-ons we just briefly reviewed, TTC scans pretty much every guild store that's public through guild traders and shows you how much people are trying to sell for. This is an important distinction, as Master Merchant shows you how much people sold, and TTC showed you how much they're trying to sell things for. I would suggest using both Master Merchant and TTC to give you a good idea of what your listed item prices should be. But if you don't want to bother with all this, just link what you're curious about in your guild chat and type PC or price check. There's also another great add-on you can use called Awesome Guild Store, and what this basically does is it gives a better UI with better filter options. Also, if you have ESO Plus just like me, and you have the crafting bag just like me, with thousands and thousands of materials, you don't have to take them out before you open up the guild store and sell them. You can actually immediately just access the guild store, and Awesome Guild Store will actually take things out of your crafting bag for you, so you can sell directly from the craft bag. It saves a lot of trouble. The last thing we're going to be talking about is flipping. Once you get the hang of posting stuff on your guild trader and you're getting richer and richer, you can try experimenting with what we call flipping in the Elder Scrolls Online. Basically, armed with your knowledge and experience of how much certain things are, you can use the tools you have to your advantage, such as Tamriel Trade Center and Master Merchant, and hunt down underpriced items on other guild stores that you yourself can buy and then sell on your guild trader or for a profit. Of course, depending on what kind of things you're trying to flip, it may not be financially worth the trouble. Like for example, let's say I find a purple recipe that's 100 gold cheaper than the usual price. It's not really worth me buying that and then flipping it for like 150 more gold. It's just not worth it at the time. Or it may be incredibly risky flipping things which people may not buy, which may leave you stuck with the items and less gold. A lot of people have made a lot of gold flipping stuff. We're talking hundreds of millions, and they still do. But I recommend you first do your research and so forth before you try doing this. And that is pretty much it for this video, guys. It's a very basic video. Thanks so much for watching. I normally don't cover this kind of stuff, but I figured I'd do it for my new trade guild. So if you want another great source of information regarding how to make gold in ESO, I strongly recommend you watch JHartEllis, who is one of the most successful trade guild masters on PC in North America. His Twitch and YouTube links are down in the description below. As always, stay safe, have fun, and see you next time.